My name is Anabella Gonzalez. I'm 25 and I'm from Columbus, Ohio. This was actually my first film ever. I did study 3D animation and visual effects at the School of Visual Arts, so I kind of learned more about storytelling in my classes, but this is really my first event ever, so. So this was for my senior thesis project, and I knew I wanted to do something personal. Um, and that was kind of challenging, of course, because you have to be vulnerable in order to be personal. And I remember a few years prior to coming up with the story, a family member of mine was going through a hard time mentally, and I told my mom that it just felt like we were watching them slowly unravel, and there was something we could do to help them. And in response, my mom said that the best thing we could do is just to be there for them, and that really stuck with me. So when I was thinking back to my story, that line popped up, and I just immediately knew from there I wanted to tell a story about somebody going through something mentally and what that feels like, as well as just like having that person there to support, even though they're not, you know, significant in the story. They're just there for a little bit, but just to show sort of like that dynamic and really focus though on what that feels like to want comfort, but also kind of push it away, if that makes sense. So,
Hey, are you doing okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
it took a while. So the way it worked, I came up with the story in 2022, but I went through quite a few iterations in terms of how I wanted to tell the story. And so I really locked down the story and like the actual previs of it in fall of 2023, and then I started animating in January, and I had about a month to do the stop motion. And then from there, it was all like compositing and the CG aspects. So all in all, it took a little over a year to do like story to end, but animation in general, it was probably about like 6 months. No, not 6 months. That's wrong. 4 months. Yeah. I used quite a few. So for my previs, I used Maya, After Effects, and Premiere to edit. I did like basic comping in After Effects initially, and then once I had my final animation and final renders, which were also done using Arnold and Maya, I composited the shots in Nuke. I also used like Dragon Frame for the stop motion. I used DaVinci Resolve for color grading. Um, what else was there? I used Photoshop for some of the textures, Substance Painter for some of the texturing, and I believe that's everything that I used. It was a long process. So it's kind of hard to like think back and remember everything. But yeah, I believe that's everything. That's a good question. It was really hard because initially, with puppets, you can do quite a few different takes. You could do like silicone based or clay. For mine, I used like Sculpey and baked it, so that way it was hard. But honestly, I thought with like her unraveling, there had to be some element of yarn or something that kind of tied into it. So that's kind of where I started, sort of with the look of my character. So I knew I wanted like her sweater to be crocheted, and then when it came to like her skin, initially I was going to leave the Sculpey just baked and painted, but I ended up finding this doll skin on, I think it was Amazon, and I just glued it onto the face to kind of make it look a bit softer too, which I think kind of helped with the character being kind of young and also just going through something. I didn't want her to come off very cold or harsh, and I think that the doll skin kind of helped soften her a bit. And then from there, it was really just like, do I want dot eyes? Do I want real eyes? And I wanted it to be something that people could resonate with. So I thought, the dot eyes may be the best, just because that way, I don't know, I think they're cuter. And so it's just like, I want my character to be cute and for people to feel bad for her in a way. So But yeah, I really drew inspiration initially from like Paranorman and quite a few other Leica films. But I knew I wanted it to be a bit more simplistic because I also don't have, I didn't have that much to work with. So yeah, it was kind of drawing from there and then taking it back to its simplest form. Honestly, so the way that I started was I had my previs, it was done in 3D, and then I shot my stop motion to match my previs. And honestly, seeing just like the stop motion, even on my really basic previs, like there were no textures on it, it wasn't rendered at all, but just to see the animation and see how like it was coming together in that way, it was so rewarding to see, especially because I really had a short amount of time to do my stop motion. Um, like I think that really sticks out, especially too because my teacher was kind of harsh. Like he really wanted everyone to stay to a certain deadline. And so when I showed him, I remember him just being really excited about it. And he wasn't one to show excitement. He was kind of just like one to move you forward, but not with like too much encouragement. I don't know how to describe it. He was kind but very professional. And that was the first time he really showed excitement for it. And so that was kind of like, whoa, okay, like this is good. Not only do I think it's good, but he thinks it's good. So yeah, that really, I think that stands out to me. I did encounter a few challenges, mainly with just the unraveling itself. Initially, I wanted it to be her fully like unraveling. I had this plan of doing it in Houdini and for her to really come apart. But unfortunately, it just didn't work out in terms of trying to bring in the stop motion character. Like, I just didn't have the time really to figure it out in a way that made sense within the timeline that I needed to finish everything. So that was really stressful because I did not know what to do at that point. That was the main part of my story, and I didn't know how to make it happen. So from there, it was just like, okay, what do I have? I have Maya, and maybe I could do these like ribbon-like things coming off her instead. So it was just like a matter of trying it, doing like a really basic rig, and hoping for the best. And thankfully, it worked out. But yeah, that was challenging. Coming up with a story was challenging too, because especially with mental health, you don't want it to be cliche and you want it to be emotional, but it's hard to kind of find that line of like, oh, this is that cliche, or oh, this is generic, or I don't know. I really want it to be personal, but not, but also understandable. So that took a while too to kind of finalize my story and make sure that it would resonate with other people and that it did kind of cross or yeah, cross that line. Or wait, what am I trying to say? It walked the line well. Like I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't too much of one or the other, if that makes sense. The voice acting was interesting because I've never casted anyone before. And it's funny because it happened very organically. I was talking to my suite mates about my film and just the process of it, because they weren't in my major. And so I kind of wanted to explain what I was doing. We were just talking in the hallway. And one of them said that they really wanted to go into voice acting. And I was just like hearing them speak, and I was like, wait a minute, would you like to be a part of my film? And so that's kind of how that started. And then in terms of directing them, I just had my animation. At that point, my animation was pretty much finalized. I just had those like talking moments left. And so I just showed them the previs, and then I kind of said, this is the tone I'm wanting. I played it for them on the screen. I kind of walked them through it, and then we did like 6 or 7 takes of each line just to make sure that I got exactly what I needed. And they were great. It was a really good experience, and I'm glad it was because I couldn't have done it without them. So, yeah. Right now, I'm working on a couple other stories. The film I just finished was a lot of work, so I took a little bit of time to kind of just settle. But yeah, I am working on a couple of different things regarding like ego death. I think that it's just interesting to explore different aspects of our minds and psychology in general. So I'm still working though on like the story structure and things like that. So I don't know when that will be coming out, but stay tuned for that. But yeah, I'm just always looking for ways to tell different stories. So I think that'll never end. Never give up on yourself. I think that it's really easy to, like, once things start going south, to feel like, oh, I just can't do this, or, this isn't working out, or you start doubting your abilities. And I think that it's important to remain confident in yourself and what you can achieve. And I remember hearing this quote where somebody said, I wish I remembered who, but they said it's not a matter of if it'll happen, it's a matter of when. So just keep that in mind too, that maybe this isn't the right time for that story, but that doesn't mean that you can't pursue another one or that you can't pursue that story at some point. So just keep going, I guess.